This is our last video in the Learn to Knit a Newborn Beanie Lefty Style series. We've casted on our stitches. We did a knit 2 purl 2 ribbing. We did a stocking knit stitch body where we just knit all the way around. We decreased, and now we have a few stitches left on top and this end. So I'm going to show you how to take the stitches off your needles and how to weave in ends. So you want to leave a little bit, I don't know, maybe 8 inches or so. It doesn't have to be exact. You're going to thread it onto a yarn needle. That's what this is. This is a yarn needle. And what we're going to do is we're now going to take all the stitches off the knitting needle and we're going to thread them onto this needle here, the yarn needle. We are, in most projects, the way you take stitches off the needle is you bind off. But on a hat or a beanie, you don't bind off. You put all the stitches onto a yarn needle, and then I'm going to slip that needle through the hole, just like that. I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to pull it tight. You see what that looks like? Closes up the top of that hat nicely. And now I'm going to turn it inside out. And I'm going to tie it off. Just like that. Make sure it's still nice and tightly shut. Let's make a little knot, tie it off. Now we're going to weave in this end. The way I weave the end in at the top of a hat is through those stitches that you just cinched shut. I just thread the needle through all those stitches 2 or 3 times. It depends on what kind of yarn I'm using. If I'm using a very slippery yarn, I'll do 3, but I only need to do 2. And now I'm gonna cut not too close. I want to leave about 1/4 inch. That way, you know, when it gets pulled and tugged, it doesn't come unwound. Now, I take that piece off. I'm going to come down to this bottom. And we're going to weave in this bottom end. Because you don't want to just snip it. If you snip it right here, it will come unknotted and unraveled, and then you will have an unraveling hat. So I'm going to show you how to weave in this end. So the cool part about knit 2 purl 2 is you've got this. Now this is the back side, right? And this is the front right here. So we're going to do this on the back side because we don't want to see it. The cool part about knit 2 purl 2 is it gives us an easy spot to weave in our ends so you can't see them. So I'm just going to pull that through that little cast on stitch. And now watch this. You're going to kind of just weave it around and around. Weave it around like that. Okay. And that pulls it up towards the top. Now I'm going to show you this cool little trick to make sure that it's woven in, but you can't see it. This also works if you had to like add a new skein of yarn halfway in between. So you follow the stitches. If you look, the stitches come up here, down here, up there, up there. So you're going to follow the stitches, and this makes sure that your end is completely hidden. You want to make sure that you're only going through that top layer that you're working through right here. You don't want to go all the way through the So you see it in the front, but you want to see it all. You want every little bit of this to be in the back, and you see I'm following where the stitch goes. Following where that stitch goes. And this makes a completely invisible end. Make sure you leave it a little bit loose on the back. You don't want to pull it tight, because if you pull it tight, you will see it in the front. If you pull it, you leave it a little bit loose, you won't be able to see it. So I did that a couple times. You don't really have to do it too many, because this really will hold it together pretty well. And now I'm going to cut it again, leaving just a little bit, you know, no more than 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to flip it. This is where we wove in the end, and you can't even see it. See how you can't see that? Now this hat can be worn this way, it can be worn this way. Nobody will ever know where you wove in your ends. And your hat is totally done and complete. I'm going to show you what it looks like on. Now this is just a little 4-inch globe. You can get these at pretty much any craft store. A newborn's head is between 12 and 13 inches on average. I know we've already discussed that. And the cool part about 4 inches is a 4-inch globe is somewhere between 12 and 13 inches. So it's really the perfect little model for a newborn's head. So that's just a little trick if you ever want to make sure that your newborn hat is the right size when you're done. This is pretty much the size of a newborn head, so it's just a cute little trick I learned. So we're going to slide the hat on, and sure enough, it fits our little fake baby head perfectly without much stretch to it, and it has plenty of stretch and give, like we can make it much bigger if we wanted to. So that's how you make a newborn beanie. Simple beanie, and it's very traditional. Can be used for boys or girls. You can add a bow, and you can add a pom-pom on top if you want to. I mean, you could just sew a button on to make it look really pretty, but that's it. That's all it takes. We made our hats. It's all done, and it's perfect. It's just that simple. So hopefully you'll join me in the next series where I'll be making another cool project. Let me know in the comments what project you'd like to knit along with me, and maybe your suggestion will be our next project. Thank you for following me along in this Learn to Knit series for Lefties.